Government contracting is just a numbers game. I say this a lot, that it's a numbers game. It's not about charisma. It's not about charm. It's about doing the right things the right way and enough of the right things. In this training, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to share 10 ways that you can spend 30 minutes each day on a particular task that will increase your sales, right? It's not about a particular opportunity, but it's an overall habit or task that you're going to be working on. Aristotle says, I think he's no longer with us, but Aristotle said, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but it's a habit, right? The quote is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, it's a habit. And that's what I want to teach you, is introduce you to the knowledge about a habit. And then when you practice it, you will begin to get excellent at it, right? I'm going to share with you 10 skills that you can do repeatedly throughout the year, every single year. But if you do these habits if you do these skills, execute these skills, do the right thing the right way, and if you do it repeatedly, they're going to turn into habits that will then help your business grow. And that's what I want for you, is to have you be able to have the skills that will be able to grow your company. So if you're ready to focus on habits today that can help you, put habits into the chat. Let me know that you're along for the ride. And by the way, thanks for those of you who are putting in your city and state where you're coming from. That's always good. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to my daily federal sales training, where I teach tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market with 2 different government contracting firms. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. A process goes from A to Z. And when we follow the process, we have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. And I know it's what you want for yourself. If you're not already connected with me on LinkedIn, or if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, do that now so that you can hear about other great information that we share. Before we get started in today's training, do me a favor, help buyers remember who you are. In the chat or the comments, put your company name and your core competency, 2 or 3 keywords, right? You can say workforce development, and that's 1 keyword. So put 2 or 3 keywords in that describe your core competency, so buyers, so others in this community can know what you do and what you sell, and they know about you. Finally, I wanted to say thank you to our sustaining members. We don't take any federal dollars. No large prime contractors sponsor us. Sustaining members like you are the ones who make these trainings possible for all small businesses out there, including people who are just getting in. So I really appreciate the fact that you're a sustaining member. Okay, let's dive in. I got a lot to talk about in a little bit of time, and I'm going to talk about those 10 tasks, 10 tips of what you can do as we move forward. But before I dive into those 10, I just wanted to share, I just wrote guidelines for a second for lack of something better, but I want you to understand how the numbers game work. When I sit there and say government contracting, it's a numbers game. Sales is a numbers game. You need to do the right things the right way, but enough of the right things. And so an example might be picking up the phone and calling people, right? You need to do enough of that. And when you call enough people, you could eventually be calling 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 people in a year. That's very doable. And it's not just all on the owner of a company, right? As you start making more money, you hire somebody, and you should expect somebody that you hire who's in sales to easily be making 2,000 to 5,000 calls a year, right? So it's not just all on us business owners. That's what salespeople should be doing. Another example is an RFI. If I sit there and say you want to write an RFI response, the way the numbers game works is if you write 1 in a year, that's pretty much no one's going to know who you are. If you write 1 a month, now you're starting to get a little bit visibility. If you start writing 1 a week, you're writing 52 RFI responses in a year. Imagine the visibility you will have if you're writing RFI responses to 1 really strong core competency that you have experienced. Imagine if you wrote an RFI response every single day. Now, if you're one of those people who are listening to that, you go, I can't write, like who could ever write RFI responses every single day? How could there possibly be that many RFI responses out there? When you think about this, first off, it's not the owner who's doing all the writing the responses. But the biggest thing is if you write to a focused offering, a focused core competency, then 80% of your response is generally already written. And you're just writing to that agency's unique needs and unique mission, for example. But you can change that in a day. A good writer could change that in a day. I don't mean you have to do that today. What I mean, though, is understanding how the numbers game works. Imagine if you wrote an RFI response every single day. That's like 220 or something weekdays, right? 220 RFI responses going out. And if you're targeting towards a certain group, like, let's say DOD, and you're doing Army and Navy or something, then you're going to have visibility. People will see that your company is a player, and you're not going to have to write that many to get traction. But numbers game is about doing enough of that right activity, and writing an RFI response is the right activity. So you want to do it the right way, and then you want to do enough of that right thing. So that's the numbers game when I talk about it from a high level. The second thing I want you to understand from a guidelines of these tasks I'm about to talk to you, Stephen Covey, if you haven't read this book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, and I don't know if I'm holding it up the right place. Yes. He wrote that book, and in there, one of the things he talks about is the time management matrix, how you manage your time, what you're working on. And often in our business day, we can't control what we're working on because we're driven by our bosses or our customers or whatever. And that tends to be called urgent and important, right? It's always pressing and you got to do it. The place we spend the least amount of time out of these 4 quadrants is quadrant 2, which is important but not urgent. The tasks I'm going to give you today are important but not urgent. And if you can budget 30 minutes a day on these, then you will start seeing more sales success because you're planning for yourself to actually spend some time in quadrant 2. And the tasks I'm going to give you are what you could do when you're in quadrant 2. So keep that in mind. If you'd like to learn more, go read this book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. The third thing I want to talk about, and I got 4 things here, is when I'm talking about doing this activity in 30 minutes a day, you want to time block your 30 minutes. It's about, in this particular case, it's about the time spent. You want to make sure you're spending 30 minutes in there, and you've got a block, right? You can easily expand this number, by the way, to an hour or 2 hours. If you're a full-time salesperson, you should be expanding in hour chunks. But you want to have a 30-minute time block, and you want to have it the same time every single day. If you miss a day, if you have to move it for some odd reason, generally it should only be for a personal reason, never a business reason. Any business reason that might impact your thing, you should just tell those people, look, I got a commitment. I've got a commitment to myself into quadrant 2. Well, you don't have to explain all that, but you have a commitment to yourself. So don't move that for a business reason, but certainly for a personal reason. But you want to time block that. I recommend you do this first thing every morning, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever time you start your day, first 30 minutes, or within that very beginning part of the day, schedule 30 minutes. So block that time out, put it on your calendar, and go out. And you can just put it on your calendar and call it quadrant 2. And these 10 tasks I'm going to give you, you can put them in to this calendar invite. So when you show up on that day, you say, I'm doing number 5. So what I'm about to show you, by the way, you don't want to do them all. And this goes into my 4th guideline, is just pick one of the 10 that I'm saying for that day and dive into it. Don't do 2 because you're distracting yourself. So you want to give yourself focused time on driving in. And if you have more time that you can put in, use a second 30-minute block of time and do a different task. But when you keep the same task rolling for a certain amount of time, you get really good at it, and you can tell by the performance and the results. So hopefully that makes sense in there on the focus. If it does, put Q2 in the chat. Just let me know you understand this idea of, I want you in quadrant 2, the important but not urgent tasks. So Q2 into the chat. Okay, I got 18 minutes and 10 bullets I want to share with you. Half a tank of gas. I got dark sunglasses. I'm ready to go. So as you think about how you can spend 30 minutes on a task each day to increase your sales, the next 10 that I'm going to talk about follow my 7-step process for government federal contracting success or revenue success. And let me show this to you really quick, just so we're all on the same page. So whenever I think about tasks, if it doesn't touch on one of these 7 steps in the process, then why am I working on it, right? And so I keep trying to align myself back to this activity. The only activity that'll fall into this that doesn't have the word like research is visibility. But visibility is this activity that goes on every one of these process steps. Okay, so the first task that you could work on related to visibility is every day spend 30 minutes going on to LinkedIn, excuse me, not every day, in the 30-minute chunk, because I'm going to give you 10 tasks and you could rotate them over a period of 2 weeks. and then come back again and come back again. So the first suggestion is to view people's profiles on LinkedIn. Learn about them. Go into your federal agency customers and try to learn about them, or your teaming partner type folks, but go into LinkedIn and find people's profiles and view them. Begin to get to know who they are. If it makes sense that you should be tracking on them, or you imagine that a relationship with them down the road might make sense, then follow them. And so following on LinkedIn is as simple as clicking a button. And when you do, LinkedIn will notify you whenever this person is posting content. So when I talk about viewing the profile, this is different than looking at notifications of your feed. You're purposely going into, let's say, PEO Digital, which is in the Navy. If you go into PEO Digital, there's a company page, and that company page will show you 400 employees, let's say. Spend 30 minutes. If that's a target customer of yours, spend 30 minutes looking at those people's profiles, seeing which ones of them are engaging on LinkedIn and putting content out, et cetera. And the ones that make sense, that might fit with you, like if you're a SharePoint company and you see in PEO Digital, there's people with SharePoint responsibilities, then follow those folks. So that's the first thing you can do. And the reason you want to do this, by the way, is you're letting them know when you do this activity, viewing their profile and following them. When you do that, LinkedIn is letting them know, hey, Neil just visited your profile, viewed your profile. Neil just followed you. He's interested in your content. And, we tend to look back and go, well, who's Neil? Let me go see who that person is. And if your LinkedIn profile is good to go, you'll begin to have a connection. You're starting the process of them knowing, liking, and trusting you. One easy way to know who to view, by the way, is in LinkedIn. You can go in and they'll show you who's viewing your profile. That's one of the first places I might start as well, is let me go see who's viewing my profile. Let me go see who's looking at my content and go look at their profile and learn more about them. So there's a lot of different ways you can find who to view, but that's the first task for you to keep in mind on a 30-minute task or time block day. All right, so view profiles and follow on LinkedIn. The second thing is engage with content on LinkedIn. So the first one is you're looking at people's profile. The second is you're going out and you're looking at what content is being shared on LinkedIn that's related to your business. It might be something related to if you're an Amazon Web Services cloud provider or something, you might be looking at what Amazon is putting out there. Or if you're supporting the Navy, like I said, if I just stick with them today, you can go see what information they're putting out. I'm following right now the DoD CIO, and I notice that he's posting almost every single day. And so I can track. And in a split second, I can dismiss some of the stuff he posts because I don't care, right? Other stuff he posts, I do care about. And so this way to engage content is first, maybe look at the people you care most about, you have relationships with, you want to maintain them. And then you can look at your feed. So just like Facebook or anywhere else, you can go down through the LinkedIn feed and see if you find something that's relevant to your business. And then you can go into your notifications. Like I said, if you're following, let's say you're following that CIO, LinkedIn will push his content into your notification tab, and you can go in there. And engagement means reading it, right? Actually take a look at it and see if it means something to you. If it does, engagement is giving it a thumbs up, as an example. If you like it and you think it's good, you can do further engagement by commenting on it. That's one of the best ways you can engage with content on LinkedIn, by the way, is to continue the conversation by mentioning something in there. Hey, I was looking at page 7 on the third line of effort. It's really interesting how that is speaking to one of the biggest challenges out there in the defense sector or something, whatever, right? You look in there, and if you're an expert, you should be able to comment on it. So that's an example of engagement. So you want to be able to engage with content for 30 minutes when you go into that task. The third one on visibility, and I got 4 on visibility, is create content that your buyer would value. So I'm talking about this DoD CIO for a second. And let's say that person's engaging my stuff, and maybe I'm a zero trust company, and zero trust is really big in the federal sector right now. I mean, buzzword wise, everybody's trying to put zero trust in place. And maybe you write an article, maybe you write a post, maybe you take a zero trust article from somebody else, like a third party provider or something, and you come in and you summarize it. And if you're following and engaging with this DoD CIO, he might be looking and going, well, who is this person who's been following me? Maybe I start looking at their content, or maybe LinkedIn is pushing this out because they know people like him care about zero trust. And often you're just pushing this content out to your current connections, right? So LinkedIn shares that content as much as it can, depending on how interesting it is. What I encourage you to do is to make sure you're sharing content that your buyer would value. Your buyer's not going to value unrelated stuff. I saw somebody, and I don't mean to be mean about this, I just mean to be social media advising about this, but I see people put out something like, Happy President's Day. Well, when you put that in and you put too much of that in, you begin to crowd up your feed. Your feed on LinkedIn is a precious commodity to you, precious asset to you. You want to make sure that your viewers, your audience, this DoD CIO, they begin to realize that anything you post is going to be related to a particular topic that you're good at. So if it's zero trust, for example, so you want to keep your content all related. Don't get distracted by sharing all this unrelated stuff and putting it out. That distracts your audience. And pretty soon, if there's enough of it, they don't follow you. But if you create content that your buyers will value, then they're going to be attracted to you. So this will potentially increase your sales. You can do this on a 30-minute a day basis. In the beginning, your content could be something pretty simple. Hey, 3 things to consider. Like I'm doing today's 10 tips, right? It took me like 30 minutes to put that together. It actually took a little longer because it's a 30-minute session, not a post. But if I was just putting this out as a LinkedIn post, this is a good post and it would have the 10 bullets. That's more than enough. And as you get fancier, you can do fancier stuff. The fourth one is 30 minutes a day you could spend just registering in supplier portals. I have a supplier directory out there that you can get access to. And if you haven't got it, by the way, let me do this one really quick. If you haven't got it, go to the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. But this over on the right-hand side, vendor and supplier portal, it has, I think, like over 100 supplier portals. This is where buyers look. And so you want to download that directory, and you could spend 30 minutes a day registering on in the portals that matter to you. So certainly every federal agency, if a federal agency sees that you do elevator maintenance and you're in their supplier portal, they might pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, we've got an opportunity. Are you interested in bidding? It might not be your target agency, but you'd be happy to have that buyer calling you. And it's the same thing with the industry side. There's large prime contractors. They all have supplier portals. And so in that directory, you can find them. And once a day for 30 minutes, you can go in and register as many as you can in 30 minutes. Sometimes it might be just one because it's sophisticated. Other times it might be you can do 2 or 3. The fifth thing that you could do with a 30-minute time block every day is this goes into research, right? I want you to learn about your target agency or your teaming partner. An example is I put out strategic plans from agencies. So you could spend 30 minutes reading a strategic plan about your target agency. If you've got an opportunity in your pipeline or 2 or 3, and they're all pointed towards Department of Education, then you should download their strategic plan, understand their annual report, which is their report saying what was their performance like in a previous year, and what are some of their goals for the future, what are some of their challenges. An annual report speaks to the future a little differently than a strategic plan, right? But they both tell you about that agency. So you could spend 30 minutes a day understanding that agency better. If you understood the agency better, when you go in to have meetings, your meetings will be a lot higher level, for lack of a better word. And you'll be able to get more out of those meetings. You'll be able to contribute more to those meetings to the buyer by talking about some of their challenges and goals, et cetera, referencing their material. The sixth thing is you can, in research, it's research related, find and review sources sought in RFIs. So I talked about that briefly earlier. And so here, it's not about writing RFIs. It's you could spend 30 minutes and go out there. Make sure you've got saved searches out there in SAM. You've got some auto alerts coming to you, but also just get out there and explore. Sometimes I love going into SAM and I say, just show me every current RFI that is due from today forward. And it might drop 2,000 back to me or something. I don't care. I'll export it to Excel really quick. I'll quickly go through and begin to go, I don't care about these chunk of NAICS. They're all construction. I'm IT services, whatever. But I start whittling it down, and I don't whittle it by keyword or NAICS code. I just get them all, and I slowly start eliminating rows until I see a bunch that might work with me. The reason I like doing it that way is so that I never miss one that is poorly titled, or the NAICS code is just way off than where I think it should be. But you should spend time to find those RFIs and then review them to see if those RFIs and sources sought fit for your company, so that you start putting it into your pipeline along with the proposals that you're trying to write. So that's number 6, find and review sources sought and RFIs. Another way, number 7, that you could spend 30 minutes each day. And remember, all these tasks I'm talking about, you pick one of them for that particular day. But number 7 is related to targeting. And this is just about finding more POCs, new points of contact. So targeting in the 7-step process is about building a list of 100 or 200 people that are in an agency. When I build lists like this, we tend to build them 300 to 500 people. We want to have a whole bunch of people we can constantly be reaching out to and looking for the ones who first answer the phone, right? That's a big deal, the ones you can get hold of. And second, to begin to find the ones that really fit for what we need, whether it's in business development or capture. But you want to keep that targeted list of people you're trying to contact always being built. And so, think about it like your gas tank. My wife, we've been together a long time, but she taught me a long time ago. She broke me of this habit of going down to E and then waiting for as long as I could with the light on, right? Now she's got me in the habit of filling up the car tanks before it gets below a half tank. And I love it. It's totally smart. It eliminates the risk of running out of gas for sure. And it's the same thing with a targeted list. You want to constantly be filling that list. And so you could spend 30 minutes looking for points of contact out there. Number 8 and number 9 are about outreach. So number 8 is pick up the phone and call agency points of contact. So you got these targeted lists, you got 100, 200 people. You want to pick up the phone and call these people and try to set up an introduction call or an introduction meeting, excuse me. And so this task, this 30-minute task, is just about dialing as many people as you can until you get traction. The way I tell you to do outreach, always make a phone call first and then follow up with an email. If you're just sending an email, then you're basically coming in along with the spam. But if you send a voicemail, I actually heard somebody once say, if I do a voicemail, they recognize my phone number and they'll never answer the phone. If that's happening, then whatever you're saying is wrong or you're calling the wrong person. But if you're the right person for the person you're calling, of course they're going to want to talk to you. And so picking up the phone, leaving a voicemail, and then following up with an email, these are things you can do for 30 minutes, and you can call 10 or 20 people in a 30-minute section. If somebody answers, that's totally fine. Spend the time trying to set up a meeting, and then you come back another day and do another 30 minutes of outreach. But number 8 is about reaching out to agencies. So just reach out to agencies on one day. Another day, reach out to teaming partners or potential teaming partners. And so I might look in the Navy and go, show me 100 people that are working in the Navy, doing business in the Navy. I'll find names and numbers, and I'll slowly begin to outreach and say, hey, I'd love to find out if there's synergy between our two companies. Number 10 is related to capture. And so on this one, you could spend a half an hour, 30 minutes following up on each one of your pipeline opportunities. I hear about this a lot where people make phone calls. They're asking for, hey, what contract vehicle is it going to be on? When's it coming out? Where is it coming out? Things like that. You're trying to get questions answered, but then you let time go. And so what I would recommend is that you're using 30 minutes to look at all of your pipeline opportunities. And by the way, if you have more than 20 or 40, I would submit that you have way too many pipeline items. And I'm just talking about the ones that are, let's say, the next 6 months. But pick up the phone and call those people, or send an email. Say, hey, Martha, I'd sent you an email before. I just wanted to follow up, raise it to the top of your inbox. But you could spend 30 minutes touching each one of your opportunities, not digging deep into the capture activities, but just this one follow-up task on each one of the opportunities. So if you can get any of your customers to contact you back, that would be good. So those are the 10 things I wanted to share with you. I know I went through pretty fast. I shared 10 ways to spend 30 minutes each day to increase your sales in the federal sector, especially if you're a woman-owned small business. By the way, if you find it valuable for me to create a mini course that shows actually how to do each one of these things I said, put in the chat just habit course. If you want me to build a mini course around these habits, these 10 habits that you could do 30 minutes each day, and you pick one or the other, just put habit course in the chat. The other thing I wanted to mention is, if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, we've got over 6,000 people subscribed to our newsletter. I'd love to have you on there. Visit my LinkedIn profile. And on LinkedIn, you can find out, you can click on there, find the newsletter, and just hit subscribe. If you're on LinkedIn and you're connected with me, message me if you got any problem finding that. Last thing is just remember, government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of what I taught you today are 10 different skills that are the right things that you can do the right way and then eventually do enough of them. That's process. I'll see you in the next training.